The unexpected encounter, the relentless hum of the starship's engines, had long since faded into background noise for Captain Marcus Hawthorne. At 72 years old, he was well past the age when most will have retired to a quiet life planetside. But Marcus had never been one for sitting still, and the vast expanse of space still called to him like a siren's song. His weathered hands danced across the control panel, making minute adjustments to the ship's course. The Stargazer, his modest but reliable vessel, had been his home for the better part of 3 decades. Its worn corridors and familiar creaks were as comforting to him as any earthly abode. Marcus's latest mission was a simple supply run to the outer colonies, a task he performed countless times before. But as he approached the Epsilon sector, something unusual caught his eye. A faint distress signal, barely registering on his sensors, pulsed from a nearby asteroid field. Well, Marcus muttered to himself, a hint of excitement creeping into his voice. What do we have here? He adjusted his course, guiding the Stargazer toward the source of the signal. As he drew closer, the asteroid field came into view, a chaotic dance of rocky bodies spinning through the void. Nestled among them, nearly hidden from sight, was a small ship. Marcus's eyes narrowed as he studied the vessel. Its design was like nothing he'd ever seen before, all smooth curves and iridescent surfaces that seemed to shimmer and shift in the starlight. It was clearly of alien origin, far beyond human technology. "This is Captain Marcus Hawthorne of the human vessel Stargazer," he broadcast, hoping whoever was aboard could understand. "I've received your distress signal. Do you require assistance?" For a long moment, there was only silence. Then a response came through, a melodic voice speaking in a language Marcus couldn't understand. But the tone was unmistakable: fear, urgency, desperation. Marcus made a quick decision. "I'm going to attempt to dock with your vessel," he announced, hoping his intentions would be clear even if his words weren't. Maneuvering through the asteroid field was no easy task, even for a pilot of Marcus's experience. He gritted his teeth, hands steady on the controls as he guided the Stargazer through the treacherous maze of tumbling rocks. More than once, he had to make split-second adjustments to avoid a collision. Finally, after what felt like hours but was likely only minutes, Marcus brought his ship alongside the alien vessel. Up close, he could see signs of damage, scorch marks along one side, a flickering force field barely holding the ship together. "Whoever you are," Marcus said to himself, "you've been through hell." He initiated docking procedures, the Stargazer's airlock extending to make contact with the alien ship. As the connection was established, Marcus grabbed a handheld translator and a med kit. He didn't know what he'd find on the other side, but he was determined to help if he could. The airlock cycled open with a hiss, and Marcus stepped through. The interior of the alien ship was as strange as its exterior. Organic-looking walls that pulsed with an inner light, consoles that seemed to grow out of the floor like crystal formations. And there, huddled near what appeared to be the main control center, were 3 figures. Marcus's breath caught in his throat. They were unmistakably female, but clearly not human. Their skin was a pale lavender, shimmering with a subtle iridescence. Large, almond-shaped eyes regarded him with a mixture of fear and hope. Delicate antennae atop their heads twitched and swayed, as if tasting the air. One of the aliens, seemingly the leader, stepped forward. She spoke, her voice a lilting melody that the translator struggled to decipher. After a moment, broken phrases began to come through. "Help, please," pursued, slavers. Marcus's jaw tightened. Space slavers were a scourge he'd encountered before, pirates who preyed on vulnerable species and sold them to the highest bidder. If these women were fleeing such a fate, he'd do whatever he could to help them. "You're safe now," he said, speaking slowly and clearly for the translator. "I'm here to help. Are any of you injured?" The leader nodded, gesturing to one of her companions who lay on the floor, clearly in pain. Marcus approached cautiously, kneeling beside the injured alien. Her breathing was labored, and a nasty gash ran along her side, seeping a glowing, silvery fluid that Marcus assumed was blood. As he reached for his med kit, a violent shudder ran through the ship. Warning klaxons blared, and the aliens' eyes went wide with terror. "They found us," the leader said, her words now coming through more clearly as the translator adjusted to her language. Marcus rushed to a nearby viewport, his heart sinking at what he saw. A massive ship had appeared at the edge of the asteroid field, its design as cruel and predatory as its purpose. The slavers had indeed found their prey. In that moment, Marcus knew he had a choice to make. He could leave these aliens to their fate, avoid getting involved in a conflict that wasn't his. It would be the safe choice, the logical choice. But as he looked back at the three frightened women, he knew he couldn't do that. His entire life had been spent exploring the stars, driven by a sense of wonder and a belief in the fundamental goodness of life in all its forms. He couldn't turn his back on that now. "All right, ladies," he said, his voice filled with a determination that belied his age. "Let's get you out of here." The alien leader's eyes met his, a glimmer of hope shining through her fear. She nodded, understanding passing between them, without need for words. Marcus helped the injured alien to her feet, supporting her weight as they made their way back to the Stargazer's airlock. The other two followed close behind, casting nervous glances over their shoulders. As they boarded his ship, Marcus's mind raced. The Stargazer wasn't built for combat, and outrunning a slaver vessel wouldn't be easy. But he had years of experience and knowledge of this sector that the slavers likely lacked. It would have to be enough. "Strap in," he told the aliens as he settled into the pilot's seat. "This might get a bit rough." With practiced ease, Marcus disengaged from the damaged alien ship and fired up the Stargazer's engines. The pursuing vessel was closing fast, but they still had a head start. As Marcus plotted a course through the asteroid field, using the tumbling rocks as cover, he felt a presence beside him. The alien leader had taken the co-pilot's seat, her large eyes studying the controls intently. "I am Lyra," she said, her words now coming through clearly on the translator. "My sisters are Vela and Karina. We are in your debt, Captain Hawthorne." Marcus gave her a quick nod, his attention split between piloting and monitoring the slaver's approach. "We're not out of this yet," he replied, "but I promise you, I'll do everything in my power to keep you safe." As the Stargazer darted between asteroids, the slaver ship opened fire. Energy beams lanced through space, superheating the rocks they struck. Marcus's hands flew over the controls, each maneuver honed by decades of experience. "Lyra," he said, an idea forming, "can you operate these sensor controls? I need to know if there are any particularly dense areas of the asteroid field nearby." The alien nodded, her delicate fingers dancing across the console with surprising dexterity. After a moment, she pointed to a cluster of readings on the screen. "There," she said, "a high concentration of metallic asteroids approximately 2,000 units ahead." Marcus allowed himself a small smile. "Perfect. Hold on tight, everyone. We're about to thread the needle." He pushed the Stargazer's engines to their limit, aiming for the dense cluster Lyra had identified. The slaver ship followed, gaining ground with its superior speed. But Marcus had something they didn't: intimate knowledge of how to fly in these hazardous conditions. As they entered the metallic asteroid field, Marcus began a series of complex maneuvers. He weaved between the spinning rocks, using their magnetic properties to disrupt the slaver's sensors. The pursuing ship, unable to target them accurately, began firing wildly into the field. Suddenly, a massive asteroid loomed before them. Instead of veering away, Marcus aimed straight for it. "Captain," Lyra cried out in alarm. But Marcus held steady. At the last possible moment, he cut the main engines and fired the maneuvering thrusters, sending the Stargazer into a tight spin. They skimmed the surface of the asteroid, using its bulk to slingshot them in a new direction. The slaver ship, unable to match the maneuver, clipped the asteroid. Their shields flared and failed, leaving them vulnerable to the swarm of smaller rocks that bombarded their hull. As the stargazer emerged from the other side of the asteroid field, Marcus allowed himself a moment of relief. The slavers were nowhere to be seen, likely nursing their wounds and unable to continue the pursuit. He turned to Lyra, whose eyes were wide with a mixture of fear and admiration. "We did it," he said, offering her a reassuring smile. "You're safe now." Lyra's antennae quivered, and to Marcus's surprise, she reached out and placed a hand on his arm. The touch sent a warmth through him that he hadn't felt in years. "Thank you, Captain Hawthorne," she said, her voice filled with genuine gratitude. "You have saved us from a fate worse than death. We owe you our lives." Marcus felt a blush creep into his cheeks, suddenly feeling every bit his age in the presence of these ethereal beings. "Just doing what's right," he mumbled. As the adrenaline of their escape faded, Marcus realized that their adventure was far from over. He had 3 alien refugees on his ship, one of whom was injured. They were in an unfamiliar sector of space, with no clear destination in mind. But as he looked at Lyra, at the trust and hope in her eyes, Marcus felt a sense of purpose he hadn't experienced in years. Whatever challenges lay ahead, he knew he would face them. For the first time in a long while, the vastness of space didn't feel lonely. With a deep breath, Marcus set a course for the nearest friendly port. A new chapter in his life had begun, one that promised to be more exciting and fulfilling than he could have ever imagined. Cosmic bonds and hidden threats. The stargazer drifted through the cosmic tapestry, its hull gleaming under the light of distant stars. Inside, an unlikely group of survivors forged bonds that transcended the boundaries of species and age. Marcus stood at the helm, his weathered hands steady on the controls. The events of the past few days had left him exhilarated and bewildered in equal measure. He glanced over at Lyra, who sat in the co-pilot's seat, her luminescent eyes fixed on the star chart before her. "Any luck finding a safe haven?" Marcus asked, his voice gruff but kind. Lyra's antennae twitched thoughtfully. "There is a system not far from here," she said, her melodic voice tinged with hope. "My people call it Harmony's Cradle. It's said to be a sanctuary for those seeking refuge." Marcus nodded, plotting the course. As the ship hummed to life, accelerating towards their destination, he couldn't help but marvel at the strange turns his life had taken. At 72, he'd expected his final years to be filled with routine supply runs and quiet contemplation. Instead, he found himself embroiled in an interstellar adventure, responsible for the lives of 3 alien women who seemed to have stepped out of a dream. In the ship's small medical bay, Vela tended to Karina's wounds. The injured alien's condition had stabilized, thanks to a combination of Marcus's old-fashioned first aid and the advanced healing abilities of her own species. "Your captain," Vela said softly, her gaze flickering towards the cockpit. "He is unlike any being we've encountered." Karina nodded, wincing slightly as she shifted. "There is a strength in him," she replied, "not of body, but of spirit. It radiates from him like starlight." As the days passed, Marcus found himself growing increasingly fascinated by his alien passengers. Their culture, so different from his own, was rich with traditions that seemed to bridge the gap between technology and nature in ways humans had never imagined. One evening, as the stargazer cruised through a nebula of swirling purples and blues, Laura approached Marcus with a small crystalline object in her hands. "Captain," she said, her voice soft and melodious, "we would like to share something with you. A token of our gratitude." Marcus watched, mesmerized, as Lyra placed the crystal in the center of the room. With a gentle touch, she activated it, and suddenly the cabin was filled with swirling lights and haunting melodies. It was like being inside a living aurora, colors and sounds intertwining in a cosmic dance. "This is a song of gratitude," Lyra explained, her eyes shimmering with emotion. "It's a sacred tradition among our people, shared only with those who have earned our deepest trust." As the ethereal music washed over him, Marcus felt a lump form in his throat. In all his years traversing the stars, he'd never experienced anything quite like this. The beauty of it struck him to his core, reminding him of why he'd fallen in love with space exploration in the first place. But even as they reveled in this moment of connection, danger lurked in the shadows of space. Unbeknownst to the Stargazer's crew, their daring escape had not gone unnoticed. Word had spread through the darker corners of the galaxy, whispers of an elderly human who had outwitted the most notorious slave traders in the sector. On a distant space station, shrouded in the toxic atmosphere of a dying planet, a figure cloaked in shadow studied a holographic display. The image showed the Stargazer's last known trajectory. So, the figure mused, its voice a low, menacing growl. The old human thinks he can play hero. How quaint. A gnarled hand reached out, tracing the ship's path. Little does he know, he stumbled into a game far bigger than he could imagine. The shadowy being turned to a subordinate, a creature more machine than flesh. "Prepare the Void Reaver," it commanded. It's time we reminded the galaxy why the name Senuk is spoken only in whispers. Back on the Stargazer, blissfully unaware of the gathering storm, Marcus and his alien companions continued their journey towards Harmony's cradle. As they traveled, the bonds between them grew stronger, transcending the barriers of species and culture. Marcus found himself opening up to Lyra, sharing stories of his long life among the stars. She listened with rapt attention, her antennae swaying gently as she absorbed every word. "You've lived such a full life, Captain," Lyra said, her voice filled with admiration. "So many adventures, so many worlds seen." Marcus chuckled, running a hand through his thinning white hair. "Maybe so," he replied, "but I've never encountered anything quite like you and your sisters. You've brought a spark back to these old bones." Lyra's skin shimmered, a sign Marcus had come to recognize as a blush. "And you, Captain, have shown us that there is still goodness in this vast, often cruel universe." As they talked, Vela approached, her eyes wide with excitement. "Captain," she said, "I've been studying your ship's systems. With your permission, I believe I can integrate some of our technology to enhance your defenses." Marcus raised an eyebrow, intrigued. "Oh, and what did you have in mind?" Vela launched into an explanation, her words flowing faster than the translator could keep up. Marcus listened, amazed at the ingenuity of her proposals. It seemed his alien guests had hidden depths he was only beginning to fathom. Over the next few days, the Stargazer underwent a transformation. Under Vela's guidance, and with Marcus's experienced oversight, they integrated crystalline matrices into the ship's shield generators, exponentially increasing their strength. Karina, now fully recovered, lent her expertise to upgrading the sensor arrays, giving them capabilities that bordered on precognition. As they worked, Marcus couldn't help but feel a sense of rejuvenation. The enthusiasm and brilliance of his alien companions were infectious, rekindling a fire in him that he thought had long since burned out. But even as the Stargazer grew stronger, so too did the threat pursuing them. Senuk, the shadowy mastermind behind the slave trade operation, had not given up the chase. The Void Reaver, a ship as black as the space between stars, cut through the cosmos like a blade, leaving a trail of destruction in its wake. One night, as Marcus sat in the cockpit, gazing out at the star-studded expanse, Lyra joined him. She settled into the co-pilot's seat, her presence a comforting warmth in the quiet of space. "Captain," she said softly, "there's something I need to tell you. Something about why the slavers were pursuing us so relentlessly." Marcus turned to her, noting the worry in her luminous eyes. "I'm listening," he said gently. Lyra took a deep breath, her antennae quivering with emotion. "My sisters and I were not just refugees. We're the last of our kind to possess the knowledge of the cosmic harmony." "Cosmic harmony?" Marcus echoed, leaning forward with interest. "It's an ancient power," Lyra explained, her voice barely above a whisper. "A way of tapping into the very fabric of the universe. In the wrong hands, it could reshape reality itself." Marcus sat back, the weight of this revelation settling over him. He'd suspected there was more to these women than met the eye, but this was beyond anything he could have imagined. And the slavers, they're after this power, he asked, though he already knew the answer. Lyra nodded sullenly. Not just any slavers. They serve a being known as Zenek, a creature as old as the stars themselves. It seeks the cosmic harmony to remake the universe in its own dark image. As if summoned by the mention of its name, alarms suddenly blared throughout the ship. Marcus's hands flew to the controls, his heart racing. Multiple ships dropping out of hyperspace, he called out, his voice steady despite the surge of adrenaline. On the view screen, a terrifying sight materialized. A massive ship, darker than the void itself, hung in space before them. Surrounding it were dozens of smaller vessels, a swarm of predators circling their prey. "It's the Void Reaver," Lyra gasped, her face pale with fear. Marcus's jaws set in grim determination. He'd come too far, faced too much, to give up now. With a swift motion, he activated the ship-wide comm. "Ladies," he said, his voice filled with a strength that belied his years, "it looks like we've got a fight on our hands. I hope those upgrades of yours are ready for a field test." As the Void Reaver and its fleet bore down on them, Marcus felt a strange calm settle over him. He'd spent his life searching the stars for meaning, for purpose. Now, in the twilight of his years, he found something worth fighting for. With Lyra at his side and the combined strength of human ingenuity and alien wisdom at his fingertips, Marcus prepared to face the greatest challenge of his long and eventful life, the fate of not just their small crew, but potentially the entire universe hung in the balance. The Stargazer's engines roared to life, its newly enhanced systems humming with power. As they rocketed towards the imposing fleet before them, Marcus allowed himself a small, defiant smile. "All right, Skenak," he muttered under his breath, "let's dance." Quantum entanglement of hearts and stars. The vastness of space erupted into a dazzling spectacle as the Stargazer, pulsing with its newfound power, charged headlong into Zenak's formidable fleet. Marcus's weathered hands danced across the controls, his eyes gleaming with a fire that belied his 72 years. "Vela," he called out, his voice steady despite the chaos. "Activate the prismatic shield array." At her station, Vela's fingers flew over crystalline interfaces. Suddenly, the Stargazer shimmered, its hull refracting light in impossible ways. Energy blasts from the enemy ships bent around them, their deadly power dissipating harmlessly into the void. By the cosmic winds, Lyra breathed, her luminous eyes wide with wonder. "It's working." Marcus allowed himself a grin. "Oh, we're just getting started, ladies. Karina, how are those quantum torpedoes looking?" Karina's antennae quivered with excitement. "Primed and ready, Captain. These beauties pack enough punch to rip holes in the fabric of space-time itself." As the Void Reaver loomed before them, its obsidian hull seeming to devour the very starlight around it, Marcus felt a surge of determination. This wasn't just a battle for survival, it was a stand against the darkness that threatened to engulf the universe. "All right, Zenek," Marcus muttered, his voice low and dangerous. "Let's see how you like a taste of human ingenuity mixed with alien wisdom." With a series of precise maneuvers, Marcus weaved the Stargazer through the swarm of enemy ships. Each movement was calculated, drawing their fire and causing them to hit each other in their frenzy to destroy the elusive vessel. Meanwhile, Lyra closed her eyes, her antennae glowing with an otherworldly light. "Captain," she said, her voice distant as if coming from across vast gulfs of space, "I'm tapping into the cosmic harmony. I can feel the ebb and flow of the universe itself." As she spoke, strange symbols began to appear on the Stargazer's screens, pulsing in time with an unheard rhythm. Marcus felt a tingling sensation, as if every atom in his body was resonating with some grand celestial song. "Now, Karina," he shouted, "fire the quantum torpedoes." The weapons launched, trailing streams of iridescent energy. But instead of detonating on impact, they phased through the Void Reaver's shields as if they weren't there. Explosions rippled across the massive ship's hull, each one tearing open rifts in reality itself. Sinek's voice, cold and ancient, crackled over the comm system. "Foolish creatures, you think your parlor tricks can stand against the power of one who has seen the birth and death of galaxies." The Void Reaver's response was swift and terrible. A beam of pure darkness lanced out, narrowly missing the stargazer, but annihilating an entire asteroid field in its path. The vacuum left behind began to pull in everything around it, a miniature black hole born of malevolence. "Evasive maneuvers," Marcus called out, his hands flying over the controls. The stargazer spun and dove, narrowly avoiding debris and enemy fire alike. As they fought, something extraordinary began to happen. The bond between Marcus and his alien companions, forged in the crucible of danger and shared purpose, began to take on a tangible form. Streams of energy, visible only to them, flowed between their bodies, connecting them in ways that defied conventional understanding. Captain Vela gasped, her eyes wide with realization. We're quantum entangling." Marcus felt it too, a sensation unlike anything he'd experienced in his long life. Suddenly, he could sense the ship, as if it were an extension of his own body. Every system, every circuit, was as familiar to him as his own heartbeat. "Well then," he said, a smile playing on his lips, "let's show Xenoch what happens when you mess with a quantum-entangled crew." With their minds and hearts linked, Marcus and his alien companions moved as one. The stargazer danced through space, its movements fluid and unpredictable. Quantum torpedoes phased in and out of reality, striking the Void Reaver where it was most vulnerable. Senak's frustration was palpable, impossible. The ancient being raged. "No mere mortals can withstand the power of the void." But Marcus and his crew were far from mere mortals now. As they fought, Lyra's connection to the cosmic harmony grew stronger. The universe itself seemed to respond to their plight, cosmic strings vibrating in sympathy with their struggle. "Captain," Lyra called out, her voice resonating with power, "I can create a hyperspatial rift. It could banish Xenop and the Void Reaver to a dimension beyond time and space. But it would require an enormous amount of energy." Marcus understood immediately. "The stargazer's core," he said softly. "We'd have to overload it." For a moment, silence fell over the crew. They all knew what this meant. Victory, but at the cost of their ship, their home. Then, Karina spoke up, her voice filled with determination. "We faced the void and didn't blink. We can face this too." Vela nodded, her eyes shining. Together. Marcus felt a swell of pride and affection for these remarkable beings he'd come to care for so deeply. "All right then," he said, his voice steady. "Let's rewrite the stars." As Xenak's fleet closed in for the kill, the stargazer began to pulse with blinding light. Energy crackled across its hull, reality itself seeming to warp around it. "What is this?" Xenak's voice boomed, a note of fear creeping in for the first time. "What are you doing?" Marcus's hands flew over the controls one last time, plotting a collision course with the Void Reaver. "Something you could never understand, Xenak," he replied, his voice filled with quiet conviction. "We're choosing love over fear, creation over destruction." As the stargazer accelerated towards its target, Marcus felt a sense of peace wash over him. He looked at Lyra, Vela, and Karina, these incredible beings who had brought such joy and purpose to his final adventure. "It's been an honor," he said softly. They smiled back at him, their eyes filled with a mixture of sadness and resolute determination. In that moment, bound by quantum entanglement and united in purpose, they were more than individual beings. They were a family. The stargazer struck the Void Reaver at faster-than-light speeds. For a moment, the universe seemed to hold its breath. Then, with a flash brighter than a supernova, a rift tore open in the fabric of spacetime. Xenak's scream of rage was cut short as the Void Reaver was pulled into the rift, along with its entire fleet. The rift pulsed once, twice, and then collapsed in on itself, leaving behind nothing but empty space and scattered starlight. In the aftermath of the battle, a small escape pod drifted amidst the debris. Inside, Marcus and his alien companions held each other close, their bodies still glowing faintly with the residual energy of their quantum entanglement. As they gazed out at the star-studded expanse before them, Marcus felt a sense of wonder he hadn't experienced since his first days in space. The universe stretched out before them, vast and mysterious, and full of possibilities. "So," he said, a smile playing on his lips, "where to next?" Laura's hand found his, her touch sending a warmth through his entire being. "Wherever we go together," she said softly. As the escape pod's engines hummed to life, plotting a course for distant stars, Marcus knew that this wasn't an ending, but a new beginning. His journey had led him not just across the cosmos, but to a love that transcended the boundaries of species and space itself. And as they set off towards new adventures, the stars themselves seemed to shine a little brighter, as if in celebration of a union that had saved the universe and rewritten the very nature of what it meant to be human. Nexus of cosmic legacy. The escape pod drifted through the celestial tapestry, its occupants basking in the afterglow of their impossible victory. Marcus, his weathered face illuminated by the soft bioluminescence of his alien companions, felt a profound sense of peace. Yet, as he gazed into the star-studded void, a familiar restlessness stirred within him. "You feel it too, don't you?" Lyra's melodic voice broke the silence. Her antennae quivered, sensing the subtle shift in the cosmic energies around them. Marcus nodded, a wry smile playing on his lips. "Seems our little adventure wasn't quite the finale I thought it'd be." Vela, her crystalline eyes scanning the readouts on the pod's limited instruments, gasped softly. "Captain, look. These energy signatures, they're unlike anything I've ever seen." As they watched, the space before them began to shimmer and distort. Colors that defied description danced across the view screen, and a sensation of vertigo washed over them. The pod's systems crackled and sparked, overwhelmed by forces beyond their design. "Brace yourselves," Marcus called out, his hands instinctively reaching for controls that were no longer there. "We're in for a wild ride." The universe seemed to fold in on itself, reality twisting and warping around them. For a moment that stretched into eternity, they existed everywhere and nowhere at once. Then, with a flash that seared itself into their very souls, they emerged into something else. As their vision cleared, they found themselves not in the cramped confines of the escape pod, but standing on solid ground. Around them stretched a vast chamber, its walls adorned with swirling patterns that seemed to move of their own accord. At the center stood a massive structure, a towering nexus of intertwining energy beams and pulsating crystals. By the cosmic winds, Karina breathed, her voice filled with awe. Could it be? The celestial forge? Marcus turned to her, his eyebrow raised in question. The what now? Laura stepped forward, her eyes wide with wonder. It's a legend among our people, a place where the very fabric of reality can be reshaped, where the past, present, and future converge. As if in response to her words, the air around them shimmered, and ghostly images began to appear. Marcus saw flashes of his own past, his first steps on an alien world, the triumphs and tragedies of a life spent among the stars. But he also saw things that had never happened, paths not taken, choices unmade. "It's showing us possibilities," Vela murmured, her own eyes fixed on visions only she could see. Every potential future, every alternate past. Suddenly, a booming voice echoed through the chamber, seeming to come from everywhere and nowhere at once. "Welcome, quantum-entangled ones. You stand at the crossroads of existence itself." A figure materialized before them, its form constantly shifting and changing. One moment it appeared as a being of pure energy, the next as a multitude of interlinked stars, then as something utterly beyond description. "I am the curator," the being said, its voice resonating on a frequency that vibrated through their very atoms. For eons, I have safeguarded the celestial forge, waiting for those worthy to shape the destiny of the cosmos. Marcus stepped forward, his stance protective of his alien companions. And what exactly do you want from us? The curator's form rippled, taking on an approximation of a smile. Want? No, Marcus Hawthorne. The question is, what do you want? You stand at the precipice of infinite possibility. The power to rewrite reality itself lies before you. The implications hit Marcus like a supernova. With this power, he could undo every mistake, right every wrong. He could reshape the universe into a utopia, free from suffering and strife. Or, he glanced at Lyra, Vela, and Karina, these extraordinary beings who had brought such light to his twilight years. In their eyes, he saw the same realization, the same temptation, and the same hesitation. It's too much power for any one being, Lyra said softly, voicing what they all felt. The responsibility, it's overwhelming. The curator nodded, its form shifting to mirror their own. Wisdom beyond your years. But consider this, your quantum entanglement has created something unique in all of existence. You are no longer separate entities, but a synergy of human and alien, of experience and potential. As the curator spoke, Marcus felt the connection between them pulse and strengthen. The boundaries between their minds began to blur, thoughts and emotions flowing freely between them. Together, Vela said, her voice filled with sudden certainty, we could wield this power responsibly. Karina nodded, her antennae quivering with excitement. We could heal wounded worlds, guide young civilizations, nurture the growth of consciousness across the cosmos. Marcus felt their enthusiasm, their hope and determination, but a lifetime of experience had taught him caution. And what's to stop us from becoming like Senec? From letting this power corrupt us? The curator's form solidified, taking on an appearance that combined aspects of all four of them. Your very nature, it said simply. Your quantum entanglement is not just of minds and bodies, but of souls. You balance each other, human wisdom tempering alien power, youthful idealism guided by earned experience. As they stood there, on the brink of a decision that would reshape existence itself, Marcus felt a lifetime of wanderlust and searching finally come to rest. He had found his purpose, his family, his home, not in any one place or time, but in the hearts and minds of these remarkable beings. Well then, he said, a smile spreading across his face as he looked at his companions, shall we rewrite the stars? Lyra's hand found his, her touch sending a surge of warmth and certainty through him. Vela and Karina joined them, their bodies beginning to glow with an inner light that outshone the radiance of the celestial forge itself. As one, they stepped towards the nexus, their minds and hearts united in purpose. The chamber around them began to pulse and shift, reality itself bending to their collective will. In that moment, as the power of creation flowed through them, Marcus Hawthorne, once a lonely old man drifting through the cosmos, found himself at the center of a love that transcended species, space, and time itself. And as they began to weave their vision of a kinder, more wondrous universe, the curator faded from view, its final words echoing through the chamber. The nexus of cosmic legacy is yours. May your light guide the way through the infinite expanse of possibility. With the power of the celestial forge at their fingertips and their hearts beating as one, Marcus and his alien family embarked on their greatest adventure yet, not as explorers of the cosmos, but as its guardians and nurturers, their love for each other rippling out across reality in ways of creation and renewal. The stars themselves seemed to sing as a new era dawned, one shaped by the unlikely union of an elderly human and the alien women who had stolen his heart and expanded his soul beyond the boundaries of the known universe. Quantum tapestry of eternal love. The celestial forge pulsed with otherworldly energies as Marcus, Lyra, Vela, and Karina merged their consciousness with the cosmic nexus. Their quantum-entangled essences intertwined with the very fabric of reality, transforming them into beings beyond mortal comprehension. Whoa, Nellie, Marcus exclaimed, his voice echoing across dimensions. "This is one heck of a retirement plan." Laura's laughter rippled through the cosmos, causing newborn stars to flare into existence. "Oh, Marcus," she said fondly, always with the understatement. As they settled into their new roles as cosmic caretakers, they discovered abilities that defied imagination. With but a thought, they could traverse galaxies, peer into the hearts of black holes, and witness the birth and death of universes. Vela, her consciousness expanded to encompass entire galactic clusters, marveled at the intricate dance of celestial bodies. "It's like a grand cosmic ballet," she mused. "Each star, each planet, each mote of cosmic dust playing its part in an eternal performance." Karina, attuned to the quantum foam underlying reality, giggled with childlike wonder. "And we get to be the choreographers," she exclaimed, sending ripples of joyous energy across the multiverse. Their first act as cosmic guardians was to heal the wounds left by their battle with Xenok. They reached across time and space, their combined will reshaping reality. Destroyed worlds were reborn, lost civilizations restored, and the scars of conflict erased from the cosmic tapestry. But as they wielded their newfound power, they discovered that with great ability came great responsibility. They could reshape reality on a whim, but should they? The weight of cosmic stewardship pressed upon them, a constant reminder of the delicate balance they must maintain. "You know," Marcus said thoughtfully, his consciousness spanning eons, "back in my day, the hardest decision I had to make was whether to have coffee or tea with breakfast." Laura's essence enveloped him in a cosmic embrace. "And now you help decide the fate of entire galaxies. How's that for a promotion, my love?" Their quantum entanglement, once a byproduct of their shared struggle, had blossomed into something far greater. It was a love that transcended physical form, a union of souls that resonated with the very heartbeat of the universe. As they navigated their new existence, they encountered wonders beyond imagination. They danced in the coronas of blue supergiants, surfed the gravitational waves of colliding neutron stars, and wove stardust into tapestries that spanned light years. But amidst the cosmic marvels, it was the small moments that Marcus treasured most. The quiet conversations in the spaces between galaxies, the shared laughter as they playfully rearranged constellations, the tender exchanges of emotion that caused nearby nebulae to blush with iridescent hues. One day, for time had little meaning in their new state, as they hovered at the edge of a newly formed galaxy, Vela posed a question that had been lingering in their shared consciousness. "Did you ever miss it?" she asked, her thoughts tinged with curiosity. "Being human, I mean. Having a physical form, living a normal life." Marcus's essence rippled with amusement. "Miss it? Darling, I spent 72 years being human. And let me tell you, these cosmic long johns are a lot more comfortable than my old bones ever were." His jovial response sent waves of mirth cascading through their shared consciousness, causing a nearby pulsar to hiccup in its usually precise rhythm. But beneath the humor, there was a depth of emotion that flowed between them. Marcus's memories of his human life, the joys, the sorrows, the simple pleasures, were now a part of their collective experience. Through him, his alien companions gained a profound understanding of what it meant to be human. And in return, they shared with him the accumulated wisdom of their species, the unique perspectives that came from evolving under alien suns. Together, they were more than the sum of their parts, a synergy of human and alien, of age and youth, of cosmic power and mortal understanding. As they continued their eternal dance through the cosmos, they encountered other sentient species, some so alien that the very concept of communication seemed impossible. But with their unique blend of human intuition and alien insight, Marcus and his companions found ways to bridge even the vastest of gulfs. They became cosmic mentors, guiding fledgling civilizations towards enlightenment, mediating conflicts that spanned galaxies, and nurturing the spark of consciousness wherever they found it. All the while, their love for each other grew, encompassing not just themselves, but all of creation. "You know, Karina mused as they watched a young species take its first tentative steps into space. I used to think the universe was cold and uncaring. But now I see it's brimming with love. We just needed the right perspective to see it. Lyra's essence twined with hers, a gesture of affection that sent shivers through nearby star systems. And it all started with one brave human who decided to rescue 3 alien women, she said, her thoughts warm with affection. Marcus's consciousness expanded, embracing his family and the cosmos beyond. Best decision I ever made, he said softly. Though I gotta say, this whole cosmic guardian gig wasn't exactly in the retirement brochure. Their laughter echoed through the universe, a melody of joy that caused distant galaxies to spin just a little brighter. In that moment, as in every moment of their eternal existence, they were reminded of the power of love, a force more potent than dark energy, more fundamental than gravity, capable of transcending the boundaries of species, space, and time itself. And so the unlikely family, an elderly human and his alien wives, continued their cosmic journey. They were no longer mere observers of the universe's grandeur, but active participants in its ongoing creation. Their love story, written across the stars, became a beacon of hope and wonder for all of creation. As they sailed through the cosmic sea, their quantum-entangled essences forever intertwined, Marcus couldn't help but reflect on the incredible journey that had led him here. From a lonely old man drifting through space to a cosmic guardian, bound in eternal love with beings from across the stars. Now that's what I call a happily ever after, he thought, his essence glowing with contentment. And the universe, in its infinite wisdom, couldn't help but agree.